Hi everybody, my name is Issa Jones and I am currently a first year student at UCI, and I am in the ICS 31 class that you guys are studying for right now, and is, I believe, tomorrow as of the upload of this video. And I decided that I would put together a video of everything that you need to know for the final, all the methods and functions. Today we are focusing on the email that Professor K sent us. So without further ado, let's just hop right into this video. The email that Professor K sent us specified the functions and methods that we should know for the final exam. So I've separated these into different categories as he had in the email. And so first off, there's just the general functions and methods. So len or length, print, help, range, name tuple, int, float, string, set, and ran range. For list, the methods we have are list, append, extend, sort, sorted, and count. Name tuples we have underscore replace. Strings we have split, strip, upper, lower, format, make trans, translate, and replace. For files, we have open, read, read line, read lines, write, and close. And then finally, for sets, we have add. Alright, so here's everything that we've gone over so far, just everything I was in the email. I went ahead and listed it out for you guys. So if you want to skip a part of the video, you can just click on a particular section and it'll take you there. If you're on desktop, that'll work. If you're on mobile, there will be a link in the description that will take you to each section of the video. So if you want to just skip, let's say you just want to skip the general stuff and you want to focus on the list and the name tuples, you can just go ahead and click on list, and that will be followed by name tuples. And then you can always go back to that part of the video and pick and choose which parts you want to go to. So we're going to start off with all the general methods and functions. So first on that list is len, which returns the number of items of an object, and that can either be a sequence or collection. A sequence is something like a byte, string, list, tuple, or range, and a collection is either a dictionary set or a frozen set, which we haven't learned yet, so don't worry about that. The length of the string computer science will return a value of 16. The length of this list of objects will return 3. And then the length of this name tuple object will return however many parameters there are. So it could be 3 if it's asking for a name, age, and height, or it could be like 25 if that's how many inputs it takes. Okay, so as you see here, we have switched over to desktop mode, and we're going to continue with this for some of the functions here. So next up, we have print. So what print does is it prints all the objects in a parameter field. So let's say I have a print statement, and I want to print, let's say CS is awesome. Yeah, there we go. Typing correctly is cool. So when we run this code, go ahead and run it. It'll print CS is awesome. The print function can actually take more than one string at a time. So you can give it CS, and then give it another string is, and let's give it one more, and then awesome. Okay, but now it needs to know what to separate these by. So now we need a comma and then sep, and then equals. So this is going to separate each of these 3 strings here. And so we're just going to separate it by a space. We're going to do apostrophe space apostrophe, which will separate it by a space. And then we'll run the code one more time. So it prints out the same exact thing, which is what we wanted. Now we can separate it by anything. We can put any value in here and it'll separate it. So we'll just mash on the keyboard and we'll hit run the module, and it separates it by this mishmash of stuff. If you see CS, and is right there, and then awesome is right there. Now we can also put something at the end with the parameter end. So we'll just take this, we'll separate that by a space, and so now with end equals. So with end, normally what people do will put end and then backslash n, which is a new line. And so when you run it, it looks exactly the same, and it just puts a new line out there. So the actual value of this has a backslash n at the end, whereas the value of the first print statement does not. So if we put another backslash n in there real quick and run the module one more time, and you'll see that there's now an extra line below it. Okay, so the next thing we'll be going over is help. Now, help is really useful if you're really confused about what you're doing and you're dealing with a new object that you haven't used before. So if we go ahead and just type in help with no parameters inside, we get this here. And so if you want to quit out, you can just type quit. But if you want to, you need help with, let's say strings. So we'll say help, and then we'll type in string. So now it displays everything in a string, every piece of information we could possibly want to know about strings. This might seem a little daunting at first, seeing all this pop up, but it's definitely helpful if you take the time and read through it. And you can do this for anything. So I type in int, it'll bring me all the information for int. Up next, we have range. Now, range takes in a start and stop integer, and if one parameter is given, it'll start at 0 and it will go up to the number that you gave. Now, it's very important to note that it goes up to, it does not include the number that you give it. So if you want to go from 0 to 20, you want to give range the parameter of 21. So it'll go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 20, and then it stops once it gets to 21, but does not actually go through the 21st time. So let's do a quick little for loop, because this is normally where you will see range. So for x in range, for x in range 21. So range 21, this is like the example that I just brought up. And we'll just print x. And we'll run this code. And you'll see it goes from 0 all the way up to 20. So it starts at 0, goes to 20. Now say we want to do let's do 10 to 21. So we'll give it this range from 10 to 21. Now the start point, it will include the start point, but it will not include the end point. That is very important to know. So we run it again, and it starts at 10, and it goes all the way up to 20. We also have the option to add a step argument that dictates how many numbers it skips. So by default, the step is 1. If we want to change the step, we have to give it a beginning number, so 0, and then we'll do 21, so it goes up to 20, and then we'll also include the step. So step, since it's default 1, we'll change it to something like 5. So when we go and run this code, it goes 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. It now counts by 5s. And we can make it any number we want. If we do it something greater than 20, let's see what happens. We'll run the module, and it will count just 0. And then the next thing it goes to is 25, and that's not in the range, so it's not going to print anything else. So, just for a final test, so you kind of get the idea, we'll go by 2s, and it goes 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way up to 20. Alright, so next we'll be going over name tuples. Now, name tuples must be imported with the following line. So from collections, import named tuple. Alright, so this actually imports the name tuple class because it's not a native part of Python. So next we want to actually make a name tuple. So for this example, we'll make a person. So we'll say person equals name tuple. And then the first parameter here is going to be the actual name that you gave it originally, the name tuple object that it is, which is a person. And then you want to give it the parameters. So in this case, we're going to give it a name, height, and age, all separated by spaces. They can also be separated by commas, but whichever one you choose, remember that you must be consistent. So this has a name, age, and a height. So this establishes the name tuple, and now we want to make an actual person name tuple. So we'll make P1 be our first person name tuple, and we'll do person, and then we need to give it the name, height, and age. So we'll give him the name Bob. Hi Bob, how you doing? How tall are you, Bob? We'll say he's 147 centimeters. I don't know if that's tall or short, but 147 inches seems ridiculous. And then we'll give him an age. So we say he's 50 years old. So now we've established the person name tuple, and we've actually made a person object. So now we want to be able to actually grab information from this name tuple that we've made. So in order to get, let's say, his height, so we'll display this outwards to the shell, and we'll do p1.height. So this will return the person's height. We'll run the code real quick. And so his height is 147 centimeters, which is what we have here. So that is correct. And the name tuple parameters that are here, They can either be ints, list, floats, strings, another object, or another name tuple. So you can actually have a name tuple within a name tuple. Let's say this person had a pet. So we can do pet and add that parameter. So now we need to make a pet name tuple. So let's do that real quick. Pet equals name tuple, and then we'll do pet, and then we'll give it just one parameter field. We'll just say a name. Now we're gonna make pet1 equals pet, and then we'll give it Ruby, because that's a cool name, I guess. So pet Ruby, and then we'll give it here, we'll do pet1. So now if we want to print, let's say we want to print the name of this pet, so we're going to do p1 dot pet, and then so that's going to go into the person, and it's going to get the pet. So now the pet is this whole object here. Since we have this object and we want to get the name, then we're going to do dot name as well. And so when we run this code, it'll print 147, and it'll print Ruby, which is the name of our pet over here. All right, so next up on the list we have integers now, or int. Now int returns an integer object constructed from either a number or a string. So we'll just do a couple examples here. So when we go ahead and run this code, it'll print 5, 4,328, and then pi is rounded just to 3. So if this is 3.9, it will not actually round up to 4. It'll just display 3. The value of this will be 3. And then int 57 is just returns 57, but here we have a string, and here is actually an int. So what this is called is casting. So we have this 57 string, and we want to make it into an integer. So we're going to cast it as an int. Now this is very important. There's actually a lab that we were doing this year, and I was having a lot of trouble with just one part. I'm like, my code is correct, it's all right. And I was actually trying to compare a number int to a number string. So what I ended up having to do was cast that string as an int, and that solved my issue. So it's very important that you know ints as a string are not equal to ints as an int, if that makes sense to you. Now we'll be talking about floats. Now the float function returns a floating point number constructed from a number or a string. Float is similar to int, but this is actually used for decimal points. And then we will run this module. As you see, float will keep 3.14159 the same. Float 57 actually turns it to 57.0, and so this 0 adds another significant digit to the actual int value, turning it into a float. And then 4.769, it's again with the whole casting situation, turning the string into a float. The value of this is 4.769. Another thing that was not taught in class exactly this way was how to round floating point numbers to like 2 decimal points. Now this probably won't be on the test, but is definitely helpful to know for coding. Now you don't want to change the actual value of the float when you actually have the number. You want to retrieve it from somewhere else. So just when you're printing this float, you will display it as the number. So if we have the float 3.14159 and we want to round it to 2 digits, so what we'll do is we'll do quote and then %.2f, another quote, and then we actually have to do another % sign here. So this will actually end up rounding 3.14159 to 3.14. So we'll prove this by running the module. As you see here, it has rounded to 3.14. So string is next up, and the function str returns a string object containing a readable representation of an object. All right, so we have made our person name tuple here, so we're actually going to print the value here. So we'll go ahead and run this code and see the results. So print, when you print a name tuple, this is how it's going to end up printing. So it'll do name equals Bob, and then if we had age, it would be comma age equals 50. When you print the 75 as a string, so this is actually a string now. This is no longer the number 75. This is casting in the opposite direction of what we had before. And then when you print the string hello, you get hello. Okay, so next up we'll be dealing with sets, which return a new set object. This takes in a list as an input, and it is very important to note that the elements in the list that are being used in the set must be hashable, which means that the hash code for the actual object does not change, because that's just the way sets and dictionaries and frozen sets work. So if we go ahead and print the list, and then we print the list as a set, you will notice that the numbers are in a different order. The reason for that is just how Python grabs information from your memory. It was very weird for me at first, like, why does it do that? But, after doing some research, you realize that it's nothing that you're doing wrong. It's just with how Python processes the information. Okay, so next up we'll be talking about rand range. Now, rand range takes one or two parameters similar to range, but it returns a randomly selected number from that range. So here we will run a for loop, so for x in range, and we'll print it 100 times, and we will set x equal to rand range from 0 to 100, and then we will print x. And now if we run this code right now, it'll throw an error because we haven't imported rand range. Similar to name tuple, you must import it because it's not a part of the base Python. So we'll do from random spelling is important, import rand range. And so now that we've done this import statement, it should run just fine. And so now it's running through and it's generating all these numbers from 0 to 99. It's important to state that it goes from 0 to 100, so it does not actually include in 100. It goes up to that point, so it'll only print numbers from 0 to 99. So if we look at this list, you will not see the number 100, and you see a wide array of numbers. Now that we have finished talking about the more general functions and methods, we can continue on to the more specific categories. And for now, we'll be talking about lists, and the first object on that list is list. So what this does is it returns a list in the same order as the parameter. So if we go over to our shell and then type in list and then ABC, this will return a list of A, B, and C all as separate objects. If we go ahead and do list 1, 2, 3, 4, it wouldn't matter, and we do this, it returns a list of 1, 2, and 3. And then if we call list with nothing in it, it just returns an empty list. Now, it's important to state that lists are mutable, meaning that the values can be changed, and this is important down the line. Append is a method for the list class that adds an item to the end of a list. So if we make a list over here, L equals, and we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we want to add 5 to this list, so we'll do L.append, and then we'll say we want to append 5, just make it 1 longer. We will go ahead and print so that this is changing, so we got print L here, and then right after we append, we will print L again, and we'll run the module. And you'll see that the first time we print L, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the second time is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Extend is extremely similar to append, but what it does is it extends a list by appending all items in the given list. So here we have L, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and L2, which is 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's say we want to add L2 to L. So what we want to do is we want to call extend, not append. So extend on L1 or L because that's what we want to add to, and then we give it the parameter L2 because that's what we want to add. So we'll go ahead and print L before and then print L after and run the code, and you'll see that it adds it. Now if we instead call L.append, what will happen is it will be a list within a list. So now you have a nested list, and this is not the desirable outcome, because in order to go through this list you'd have to do a for loop, and it's a whole big mess. So now we'll be going over sort and sorted. Now what sort does is it takes the items of a list and puts them in order. So here we have a list L, which is all out of whack and out of order. So now we're going to call L.sort, and then we're going to go ahead and print L. So when we run this code, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, which the numbers are in order, unlike it is here. Just calling L.sort without any parameters sorts it from lowest to highest. Now if we want to do it from highest to lowest, we have to go in here and type in reverse and then equals, and then we want to give it true. So this will actually sort it in the reverse order. So if we go ahead and run this code one more time, you'll see that it goes in the exact opposite order as it did above. Something that we want to know is if you want to sort a list of name tuples or a list of objects, what it will do is it will sort it by the first parameter. So earlier we had person, it will sort it by the name because that was the first parameter that we gave it. If we want to sort it by age or height, we'd have to define our own function that grabs the height from the name tuple and returns it, and then we would type in something like key equals get height, assuming that get height is the name of our definition that gets the height, and it will sort it by the height. The difference between sort and sorted is that sort changes the actual value of the list. So list is no longer 517946, it is now 976541 as of our last call. So if we don't want to do that, what we want to do is we want to sorted it. So we'll do L2 equals sorted, and then we'll give it L. And then if we want to, we'll do it in reverse as well. So we'll do reverse equals true. And then we'll go ahead and print L. And then we will print L2. And you will see that L and L2 are different. So L is still what the original is, and L2 is now the sorted one. So this is very important to know because you don't always want to change the value of the actual list. You just sometimes want to return the sorted value without having any other effects outside of the function or wherever you are calling this. The last method for list we'll be looking at is count. Now this takes an object parameter and returns an int of how many times it appears in the list. So here we have L1 that has 1 that appears many times, and we have L2 which has B that shows up many times. So this value, L.count1, should return 4 because that's how many times 1 appears in this list, and then L2.countB should return 2 because that's how many times it returns in this list. So if we go ahead and run this code, you'll see that it returns 4 and it returns 2. Alright, so the most important thing that we need to know about name tuples is the underscore replace method. So as you see here, Bob is back again for another visit, and it looks like there's something wrong about his information. His height here says it's 150, but as we recall from earlier, it was 147, so we need to change that for the records. So what replace does is it returns a new instant of a name tuple replacing the specified fields with new values. So this isn't actually going to change the name tuple, it's going to create a new name tuple. So in order to change P1 to have the correct information, we need to do P1 equals P1 dot underscore replace, and then we need to give it the parameter height because that's what we're changing, and that's the name it is here. And then we're going to set that equal to 147 as it was before. So if we go ahead and print P1.height before we change it, it should say 150. If we go ahead and print it after we change it, it will say 147. Alright, so that is all the methods that we need to know for the final exam. Next up, we'll be focusing on string methods, and the first one we'll be looking at is split, which returns a list of the words in a string. So here we have the string s, which has the value of hello everybody watching on YouTube. How are you guys doing? And so what we'll do is we are going to print s.split, and then we're going to put nothing in the parameter field. So if there's nothing in the parameter field, it will default to splitting it by the spaces. So we have these spaces here, and so it's going to split by those. If we put in a comma, it'll split by the commas. If we split by the y's, it'll split everything up into the y's. So we'll run it like this for now. We'll run the module, and it'll say hello everybody watching on YouTube. Now it's important to say that s.split does not change the value of s. We want it to be something concrete that we can manipulate. We need to set it equal to something. We'll do an example of splitting by the y's. So we'll run. And so hello every, and then bod, watching on, and then YouTube. Next we have the strip method, which returns a copy of the string with leading and trailing characters removed. If there's no parameter given to strip, it will default to white space, but in this case, we want to remove the www dot and the .com and just have example left. So in order to achieve this, we'll do print and then s dot strip, and then we will give it the letters that we want to remove. So in this case, it'll be W, we want to remove dot, and we want to remove com. So it doesn't have to be in that order. It can be, actually, I'll show it. It can be in any order. So we'll do CWOM and then dot. If we run the module, you will see that it just prints example. Now, if we have another string, let's say it's just a bunch of spaces, and it's like, what's up? And then a bunch more spaces, s2.strip, and then give it nothing, so just remove the white spaces. We can run the module, and it'll print what's up with all these spaces gone and all of these spaces gone. Alright, so next up we'll be talking about upper and lower. Now upper returns a copy of a string with all the characters converted to uppercase, and lower does the opposite. So here we have a string, hello YouTube, and hello is all messed up, and then YouTube is normal. Let's say we want all the characters in S to be uppercase. So we're going to print S dot upper, and then we will run the module. And so this makes it all uppercase. Note that this does make a copy, so if you want to change S, you're going to have to set S equal to S dot upper. And then we'll make it lower, and we'll do S dot lower. That's a slash. There we go. Run the module, and it will turn everything to lowercase. And notice how it does not throw an error when there's punctuation, so you can have words with punctuation, and it will work just fine. Next, we'll be looking at make trans and translate. Now, make trans returns a translation table suitable for passing to translate. This will map each character in the first parameter into the character at the same position in the second parameter. Also, the two parameters must have the same length. Here, in this example, we have A equals ELO and B equals 3 exclamation point 0, and then we have trans equals string dot trans, make trans AB. So what this means is that it's creating a table. It's making a relationship. So it's saying when this translation table is applied, it says whenever it finds an E, replace it with 3. Whenever it finds an L, replace it with exclamation point. Whenever it finds an O, replace it with 0. So here I have the string hello.youtube, and then I print A and B, and then I print hello YouTube, and then I print s.translate trans. Now what translate does is it returns a copy of the string where characters have been mapped using the given translation table. Now this sounds very complicated, so I'll go ahead and run this code for you and show what it does. Now it's very important to note that make trans gives the table that is actually used in the translate method, and translate actually does the translation. So when I run this code, it takes this translation table that we made here with trans, and then it applies it to the string S, hello YouTube. So all the ELs and O's will be replaced with 3's, exclamation points, and 0's. So go ahead and run this code real quick. And as you can see, it works perfectly. We printed out ELO and 3 exclamation point 0, hello YouTube, and then the translate printed it out all replaced. And as if you recall, we did something like this in our ciphertext lab. I believe that was lab 7. And if your code didn't look like this, if you didn't use make trans or translate, you should go back to that lab and try and do it over again, but using these methods to more firmly grasp this concept. All right, so now it is time for everybody's favorite, format. What format does is it converts a string to a formatted representation. This is also difficult to grasp by just explaining with words, so I'm going to show you guys some examples here. A lot of students struggle with format because there are so many pieces involved, and hopefully this will clear up some of the confusion. we have some information about someone that we want to print. All right, so as you can see, Bob is back once again, and we want to format his information because you see, if we print Bob, we can go ahead and run this. It'll say person name Bob, height 147. We do not want it to look like this. We want him to have a nice, elegant introduction. So what we will do is we will format it. Now these curly brackets are essentially placeholders. So these are where the values are going to go into the string. So format here, we need to give them the actual values. So we're going to do p1.name, and then we're going to do p1.height, and then p1.age. So this is an order, and it will put each one in the correct order. So name will go here, height will go here, and age will go here, and we will run the module. And so we'll say, hi, my name is Bob, I'm 140 centimeters tall, and I am 50 years old. And we forgot a period here, which is just bothering for me. So let's say we want to switch these around. Say we want the height here, the age here, and his name here. Even though it doesn't make sense in the sentence, we can still change that. So we want the height here. So since this is now essentially a list, we're going to do my name is, and we're going to do 1. So this will get the first object from the list, or technically the second object from the list, since this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. So we want the height in the beginning, then we want the age next, so we'll put 2 here, and then we want the name last. So if we go ahead and run this code again, you will see, hi, my name is 147, I am 50 centimeters tall, and I am Bob years old. I guess in some alternate universe that makes sense, but for our purposes this works. Okay, so here we have some technical bits of functions. So here you can see we have print num and num plus 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to print a number. Then we're going to have a couple spaces. Then we're going to print that number plus 1. And so here we're going to have the first number and then the second number. And we're giving it x and then x plus 1. And we're going to print numbers from 0 to 10. Now what this colon to d is that essentially says that you're giving it 2 spaces. So if we actually take out this colon 2d, or actually we'll just copy all of this code here and see, and we will paste it here, and we'll actually take this out. And you can see the difference for yourself. We'll run the code. And so as you can see, the difference here is that 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 through 8 is fine, but once you get to 9, then there's a little offset, and once you get to 10, there's even more of an offset. Now, this is because here we didn't allow for any like indentation or like any wiggle room for the numbers. Where here we put the 2D, so essentially what this does is it gives us 2 spaces. So here we have 9, and there's a space all the way along this column. So this is another benefit of formatting. We don't have to write a bunch of if statements to say if this is this long, then add an extra space in front. This does it for us. So this adds an extra space. And if we're going into triple digit numbers, we would add a 3 and then would add three spaces. So we should go ahead and do that real quick. 3D, and then we'll actually just delete that. I'll just run this code. And as you see, now there's an extra space. Now there are 3 spaces here, and there are 3 spaces here. Okay, so here we have the final thing for format, which is rounding numbers. So this is the way we learned it in class. So here we have S, which is 3.14159, which is pi. And here we have this input field, which says 0 colon dot 2f. So what this does is the 0 takes the 0 item, which is here. And we have to do that since there's only 1 item, but 2 parameters. And so we put a 0 on both. Then we do 0.2f. So this .2f essentially says round whatever it's giving it, whatever number that has been given, to 2 decimal points. So this should return 3.14. And then it'll say 3.14 is the rounded version of, and then 3.14159. So if we go ahead and run this code, you'll see that it says 3.14 is the rounded version of 3.14159, which is correct. All right, so now that we have finished talking about string methods, we're going to move on to file methods. Now here we're going to be talking about open and close. Now open opens a file and returns an object of the file. And then along with the name of the file included in the parameter, you can also determine if the file that is to be opened is readable or writable. If this is omitted, then it will be opened in read mode. So here we have W, so that means it'll be writable. If we want it to be readable, we can either just omit that completely, or we can type in R. But for now, we'll keep it as writable. And then to close a file, all it does is it closes a file and frees up the system resources used by the file using f.close. And if you try to access information from the file after closing it, that will throw an error. So here we're just going to print the file to prove that we opened it, and then we're going to close it. And it worked just fine. All right, next we will be talking about read, read line, and read lines. Now read reads a file's contents into a big string. So here we have file.read, and we'll go ahead and run that and then print contents. So hello everybody, chocolate is my favorite candy and I love coding. So that is exactly what my file says. And it is noted that the file that you are opening here needs to be in the same folder. Like I said before, it's very important that you reinforce that fact. Next we have a read line. So go ahead and comment this out. And the reason we have to comment this out is that once we read the file, it throws an error down here, and it makes for inconsistent like testing and examples. So go ahead and show you content lines now, which all this does is it splits content lines into a list by the /n. So we'll run the module here, and so it just splits this into a list using split. Now we have file.readline, and then we're going to go ahead and print f, which is the file. So we're going to run the module one more time, and it's just going to say hello everybody. So that's just going to read the first line. Now if we want to read all the lines, we want to go to f equals file.readlines, which will read every line in the file that we have. So you see us say hello everybody /n, congrats, chocolate is my favorite candy and I love coding. So that is read, read line, and read lines. The last method we'll be looking at for files is write. Now write, what that does is it writes the contents of a string to a file. So here we have some code. Out file here is open and done test. So this is going to create a file called done test, and we're writing. So for x in range 0 to 11, we're going to outfile.write string x plus a new line. So that's just going to do one number per line from 0 to 10. And then when we're done, we're going to write writing finished and then close the file. So we're going to go ahead and run this code. So it says the writing has finished. And as you see here, we open up the file, and it is has one number on each line from 1 to 10, which is what we wanted. And so this gave us the desired output, and it wrote it to a file on my desktop. Alright, and now the final thing we'll be looking at is sets, and specific to sets, we'll be looking at the add method, which adds an element to a set. So it's similar to append for list. So as we see, we have s equals set 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to print s, which will print the set, and then we're going to s.add 4 to this set, and it's going to print it out again. So if we run the module, hit OK. As you can see, we have added 4 to the set. Alright, hey everybody, if you made it to the end of the video, congratulations. If you found this helpful, please let me know down in the comments below, or by giving me a like or subscription, that'd be cool. If not, just leave a comment saying what I could do better, what I could do to help. I came up with this idea tonight, which is the Sunday before the final, so I didn't have a lot of time, and it's currently 5:18 in the morning. So I wish I could have kind of went more into depth on some of these topics and kind of like put text on the screen, but I was kind of running out of time and I need to get sleep. But at the same time, I still want to help everyone out who is currently taking the class. So next time I make one of these videos for ICS 32 maybe, I'll definitely have more time put into this, and it'll definitely be a lot better. As you can see, I changed where I was because my roommate fell asleep and he was snoring, and you can kind of hear it in the background in some of the clips. So I decided to move out into here where the echoes were more prevalent, but it's whatever. As for studying for the final, aside from watching this video, you can also go back and do your old quizzes and go through and look at your old labs to see, what you did, how you did it, all that kind of stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to message me on YouTube, or you can message me on Twitter at the Backflipper. You can also give me a follow. That was a shameless plug. I also do tutoring on campus, so if you want to find out more information about that, you can message me on Twitter or on YouTube, and I will try to help out as many people as I possibly can. And yeah, so that is all. Thank you guys for watching. Also, could you tell, towards the end, I was like my voice started off really happy and just went down here real fast? That was the thing. Oh my god, I need to go to bed. Well, anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a great day and good luck on your finals.